It's 2 a.m. The house is completely silent. But your mind? It's running a full investigation. Your manager said 7 words today. Casual, harmless. Let's review your process tomorrow morning. And now, hours later, you're lying in the dark, mapping out 50 different versions of that conversation. What did he mean? Was it a warning? Is your job at risk? Rationally, that it was probably nothing, but your brain won't let it go. Here's the thing, this isn't anxiety. This isn't weakness. This is what happens when you're wired to think deeper than almost everyone around you. And nobody tells you how heavy that actually is. You've spent your whole life being called the smart one, the one people come to for answers, the one who sees things others miss, and somewhere along the way, you started to believe that being smart would make life easier. But here's where it gets interesting. For a lot of highly intelligent people, it does the opposite. Psychologists call it psychological overexcitability. Your brain doesn't just process information, it obsesses over it. It runs simulations. It predicts disasters. It finds the one flaw in an otherwise perfect moment and locks onto it like a searchlight. You don't make simple choices. You map out every consequence of every option, and then you second-guess the choice you already made. That's not overthinking. That's your brain doing exactly what it was built to do turned against you. Here's something most people don't realize. Research shows that members of high IQ societies are significantly more likely to experience anxiety and mood disorders than the general population. We're not talking slightly more. We're talking rates nearly double what you'd expect. Happiness in intelligent people, as Hemingway once wrote, is the rarest thing he knew. And if you've ever stood in a room full of people laughing, talking, completely at ease while you felt invisible, you already know exactly what he meant. There's a name for that feeling. Lonely genius syndrome. It's not that you don't want connection, you do, deeply. But gifted adults make up roughly 2.5% of the population, which means the odds of finding someone who thinks the way you do, who doesn't need you to translate, yourself, who doesn't look at you like you're too intense, are genuinely, statistically rare. So you learn to edit yourself. You pull back. You show up to the party, stay for an hour, and quietly slip out early. Not because you're antisocial, but because pretending to fit in is more exhausting than being alone. And in your closest relationships, it gets even harder. Your mind jumps 10 steps ahead. You've already seen the problem. You mapped the solution and arrived at the conclusion while your partner is still processing the first sentence. You're not trying to dominate the conversation. You're just wired differently. But it creates a gap. And over time, that gap can feel impossible to close. Here's the dark part that no one talks about. Some intelligent people eventually stop trying. They choose isolation over the pain of being misunderstood. Over and over again, they convince themselves they're fine alone, that they don't need people. But that's not strength. That's a wound that learned to look like preference. And then there's the moment you've been working toward for years. The promotion, the award, the milestone. Everyone around you is celebrating, and you're standing there completely numb. Not ungrateful, not depressed, exactly, just empty. Because your brain is already focused on what's still imperfect. What you could have done better. What the next harder standard now looks like. Psychologists call this the achievement happiness gap. You hit the goal, and instead of joy, you feel the goalposts move. That's what perfectionism does. It makes sure nothing ever feels like enough. But here's what I want you to hear. You are not broken. The same mind that keeps you up at 2 a.m. is the one that sees what others walk past. The same sensitivity that makes a crowded room overwhelming is what makes you capable of understanding people at a level most will never reach. The same depth that leads to existential dread is the exact thing that makes your life, when you find meaning, feel more vivid, more real, more yours. You're not too much. You're just carrying something Most people never have to carry. There's a difference between a mind that's suffering and a mind that hasn't found the right outlet yet, between isolation that's chosen and connection that hasn't arrived yet, between perfectionism that destroys and standards that, one day, create something extraordinary. The goal isn't to quiet your mind. It's to stop turning it against yourself. Because here's the truth, a brilliant mind doesn't have to be a miserable one. So I want to ask you something, and sit with this for a moment. When was the last time your intelligence felt like a gift, not a burden? If that answer feels distant, that's worth paying attention to. And if any of this resonated, what happens when a person finally stops performing? When they stop translating themselves for everyone else and just exist as they are? That's exactly what we're exploring next.